Everybody's hanging to see these photos, so I'm not going to mess around. I'll get straight on with the job of showing them to you. We've got a night image. Now we've got 2 eyes and a set of ears down here and a little face, tiny little thing. Then it gets really interesting because the animal comes into focus. Clearly no photoshopping or any editing going on here. What an interesting little face. Now my vet with over 30 years experience said there's no way that's a cat with a muzzle that long. Look at those little rounded ears and that broad head. Doesn't look like any quoll I've ever seen before. Certainly doesn't look like a cat. What is it? Who knows? My dog expert that I spoke to before told me that that muzzle was too long for a cat.
Yep.
Would you agree with that?
Yep, I'd certainly agree with that.
So we've got an ambiguous photo, which is black and white because it's infrared at night, but sort of fitting the right kind of shape for a juvenile maybe. Yep. Got the small rounded ears.
Yeah, I certainly would agree with that. Yep.
Image 862. Image 863. Is that a wallaby? It looks like it's walking, not hopping. Certainly a long linear looking body. It doesn't have that large curve on the rump that you'd expect to see. A little bit of shading there, or is that stripes? Definitely got an interesting ear here, because look at this. It's way over near the edge of the line of the body. Not in here narrow like a macropod. They've got small, narrow faces. Bennett's wallabies and paddymellons. I would expect the other ear, if it was in the frame, to be about here. Rather broad head for a paddymellon, don't you think? Image 864, the next image, and the image that I'm hanging everything on because I know what I'm looking at here. And I'm certainly not looking at a paddymellon in my opinion. But like I said before, there's lots of opinions out there. If you have a look at this animal, you can see several points about this animal which make it much more like a 4-legged animal than a hopping one. For starters, it's got a dead straight back. It appears to be walking on all 4s. It has a nice stiff tail, pointing straight out like everyone reports about thylacines. And what's that we have here? Look, stripes. Several stripes on the tail, several stripes on the rump, and actually like a band going all the way around its back and continuing down on the other side rather evenly, not looking like a shadow that you'd expect to possibly go off straight if that was a shadow. That is a stripe going around its body. If you read Nick Mooneys' report, he reports on stripes. It's got the shaggy hair that I've seen on the juveniles in the Adelaide Museum. It's got the right coloured hair. It's that fawny colour. But most of all, it's very stocky if it's a kitten. And again, look at the level of where that ear is in relationship to the edge of the animal, looking down that line. Rather broad head for a kitty cat. Certainly not a cat or a kitten in any way, shape or form. The other really distinguishing feature that we have here that is golden, as far as this being a thylacine goes, is it's got 2 rather shiny little hocks. It's clearly leaping over that little bit of a branch there, and it has got rather shiny, leathery, smooth, very young, very fresh pads because it hasn't spent a lot of time on the ground. This animal hasn't been out the pouch for very long at all. A, because of the quality of those feet, but also B, because it's so tiny. Look at the size of this thing. This is a small animal. Now, my dog expert has gone over it and said it's of no breed of dog that he's aware of. Now, this man has over 60 years experience judging dogs. So anyone calling puppy, knock yourself out. My cat expert has also said there is 4 distinct features about this animal that make it not a cat. The straight tail as it walks, the smooth shiny hocks, the shaggy coarse hair, and of course that very stocky body. So there's 4 features that make it not a cat. It certainly looks like no paddymellon. 5 vets have looked at it, and the 5 vets all agreed that it certainly looked like a 4-legged animal and not a macropod that hops. Third and final photo is this one. And look at this. Again, we have an interesting shot. Yeah, sure, that's a paddymellon. Is it? Have another good look at it. There are some very telltale signs here that this is everything but a paddymellon. For starters, the way the tail sits as it's lifting itself up. Kangaroos use their, or macropods use their tail to counterbalance as they propel themselves off their feet. Look at these feet, by the way, too. rather broad, and I'm counting 1, 2, 3, and probably 4 over here, toe pads with claws in an alignment like the rear foot of a thylacine. Another good point too, there's those shiny hocks. Thylacines have short feet. They do not have long feet like a wallaby or a kangaroo. Their feet are short, that's why they're called hocks. We have evidence of striping on the tail, but again, we have that same interesting line between the ear and the outside of the animal. There's the ear of the animal, and it's a lot closer to the edge of the animal than it is the middle. So if we're going to go with an even balance there, I'm going to say the other ear is hidden, and it should be roughly about here. Rather broad head for a paddy melon. Must be the buffiest headed paddy melon around. So, like I said in my original video, the mother and the father are clearly a little bit ambiguous. They're not giving away many secrets. But why the hell would a baby thylacine, which I'm absolutely confident that this animal is, be following a paddy melon and being followed by a paddy melon? Questions do arise out of this bizarre revelation. Here we have a carnivore hanging out with 2 herbivores. Can somebody please explain to me why this is occurring? I'd love to know. It's not a bandicoot.
No.
It's not a potteroo.
No.
It's not a water rat.
No.
It's not a rattus,
No.
Norway rat or black rat. It's definitely not a paddy melon.
No.
Or any kind of macropod, because
No.
it's got a 2 linear body shape.
Yeah. Yeah. It's too equal. That you're looking at the shoulders coming through to the rump.
Yep.
And it's very equal.
Equal all the way through.
You don't see that a lot.
No, you'd
That's
agree
not.
that's coarse hair.
Yeah, it's coarse.
So the hair doesn't fit cat.
No.
The tail doesn't fit cat.
No.
And the hock may or may not, if we can find out how much fur wears off of a cat's hock
Yeah.
in the wild when it's
Yeah.
a feral.
Yeah.
And
Quite
you'd
interesting.
agree with me that you can see that that's smooth all over?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So not typical hair wear for a cat as far
No.
as its hock goes.
No. I've never seen it. Never seen it in a cat.
Now, with all due respect, I disagree with Nick Mooneys' opinion, and that's fine. That's perfectly okay. And he encourages me in his report and the attached email to get as many opinions as I can, because his is only one opinion, and that's exactly the nature of the game. Get as many opinions as you can and see what the majority of people think. So that's what we're going to do.
Certainly the ears, and even though we can't see the nose, we can see general features of the head that would suggest it's not a macropod at least.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing we need to consider is, I guess, quolls and stuff, but it doesn't look typical of a quoll.
It's not remotely quoll.
No.
I even ruled that out at the museum with the good Dr. Byrne and
That's
Nick.
okay. It just, we'd be
Process
looking,
of elimination.
yeah, we'd be basically saying this, it's a quadruped anyway. So
It's a quadruped. It's not a bandicoot, not a quoll, not a poderoid,
Yeah.
not a macropod.
Yeah.
So we can eliminate all of those, which puts it down to a point of where it's either a puppy, a kitten, or a joey thylacine.
No, well, the foot actually rules out puppy or a kitten.
Yeah, I know.
In fact,
I'm loving hearing you say that too, because two other people have said that as well.
No, well, from a veterinary point of view, I look at feet, let's say, every day.
Yes.
In a cat or a dog, well, that looks leathery. You can clearly see that looks leathery. Whereas in a dog or a cat, it's always head. So that's you can.
Now, cats do have a hock, correct?
Yes,
But they only ever have a little pad on the
Yep.
contact point,
that's right.
and they don't have a smooth, leathery pad between the paw
No, they
and that
don't.
contact point.
Yeah, that's correct.
I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, then a shadow, then 5, possibly 6 stripes.
Yeah, no,
Along
I
there.
could see those too. I have nothing to compare it to in terms of real thylacines, but no, the stripes are fairly clear.
Yeah.
That's it. The foot's somewhat, very
Seems
clearly
confused.
different. Very clearly different.
Yeah.
So even if you could imagine, say, stripes being related to a cat, you couldn't.
Put
You
that foot on
couldn't
it.
put that foot on a cat in any way, shape, or form.
Do you know many cats that walk along with their tail dead straight?
No, they don't. Cats' tails are very mobile things and very fluid things, whereas from what I've seen in terms of videos, marsupials not necessarily just thylacine, their tails are fairly rigid.
With regards to the tail and the actual spine of the animal, I look at that and I look at that tail like it's just an extension of that spine, basically, and has that rigidness about it that is so often reported in thylacine sightings, where the tail's reported as being quite stiff and awkward.
Yeah, certainly in my mind it would favour something like a thylacine for sure, unquestionably. It's just, wouldn't you love to have one more?
One more, he's smiling at the camera, would seal the deal completely. But I think, like you said, that hock puts that animal in a very small league of contenders.
That's right. And
marsupial.
Yeah, and with the hock itself, it's very easy to compare it to real life, dogs and cats. So you could go tomorrow to any veterinary surgery, take a couple of photos, and you could see it's totally different. The question is whether you could say categorically, and in my mind, there'd be about a 70 to 80% chance.
That's the policy.
Yeah. But still couldn't say absolutely 100%. In my mind, as I said, I'd still...
Looking at that anatomy...
Come back to the foot and say, well,
find me
it's
animal.
not a dog, it's not a cat.
It's not a hoppy.
Yeah. And so then you say, well, what else could it be?
If it was a fox, assuming that there are foxes in Tassie, we'll play the hypothetical game, would a fox be able to present its foot like that?
I wouldn't believe so, no. And certainly with a fox, you can consider the anatomy closer to that of a dog anyway.
Yeah.
Apart from the so-called bushy tail and so forth. But, so, there's no indication really of it being a fox, but because of the previous hype that's been around it, you'd sort of say, well...
There's a remote possibility there may be foxes in Tasmania.
So we'd look at it, look at features that would rule it out. And in my mind, there would be enough features to rule it out anyway, from being a fox.
So if we had our dead fox, our dead cat and our dead dog lying on the table here, and we had this as a reference to try and prove it, you're quite confident that we couldn't find this evidence on either of those?
So in fact, 100% confident.
100% confident?
Yeah.
Excellent.
But certainly, from a personal point of view, I'd love there to be, verified thylacine. This is currently as near as we can get so far.
This is the closest I've come. I've had a few ambiguous videos,
and it means that in the future, as long as the area remains relatively undisturbed, there'll be other opportunities.
That photo, it's daylight, it's colour. It's probably only 10 feet from the camera, maybe 12 feet at the most. It's not far. And like I said, it's got the ear, it's got the shaggy coat, it's got the coloured coat, it's got the stripes, it's got the stiff tail, it's broad and stocky and muscly looking compared to a kitten.
Absolutely.
And it's got that foot.
Kittens are no way stocky.
They're scrawny little things.
Scrawny little things, generally. There's really no way you'd see a solid shaped kitten in any way, shape or form. So it's just really not possible in my mind. I really hope that leads to getting more footage over a period of time. So.
I want it to lead to banning 1080, and if we can have any, I know Bob Brown's failed and he's tried many times, but it'd be nice to see old growth forest being protected rather than logged. Here we are at Bonnarong Wildlife Sanctuary, surrounded by all this awesome wildlife that's been rehabilitated and cared for. And we've just been to see Greg, the owner, manager of the place, and very happy to meet him and hear about all the great work that he's been doing. I've showed Greg the photos. He seems to think that the two adults might be paddy melons, but he was very interested in the black and white photo of the baby's face.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now my vet's already confirmed that ain't a dog or a cat based on the biomechanics.
100%.
He said it's not a quoll or a devil either because of the ears.
I would agree with that.
And the snout.
The paddy melon in the exact same spot. I just think it's a slightly different angle, and That just, again, I could be, and I hope I'm totally and utterly wrong. I can't tell you how much, but I promise I'd be honest, and that's my first instinct. But having said that,
Does
keep
that
this
look
in
like
mind.
a baby pademelon to you?
Look again,
Look
it's
at the
just
position of the tail while the feet are up. Now, do they hold their tail out dead straight?
And how
like that?
straight
They can
straight
do-
the back
yeah.
is.
Oh, look, absolutely. And look, but again, that's going to come down to it's hopping through some really thick shrubs. So if that's landed at an angle like this, absolutely, that momentum of the tail could very, very much do that.
And we certainly see stripes,
Yes.
and it's not a bandicoot. Certainly not cat-like.
No.
The shape of the tail, to me, it's not like any breed I know. It's certainly not a tail carriage I would normally see on a dog. And obviously a Labrador, for instance, doesn't have erect ears.
That's right.
So
yeah.
we're looking at a breed, if it was a dog, that would be more likely to be a terrier with erect ears. No, it certainly doesn't look dog-like to me. And looking at the shape of the body, I expect a bit more width in the hindquarters for a dog. It would be interesting if you had the height of the grass.
I can get a scale from the spot, that's
Yeah.
not a problem.
Yeah, that will give you an indication of what height it is.
So here I am at the spot. And there's the spot where the animal was filmed. There's the sticks and debris, there's the log up there. There's a bit of cover there, there's a little bit of an embankment there. So from the camera to the inside edge of that log is 3,450 millimetres or 3.450 metres, right to the edge of that log there. 1,700 mil between the log and the inside edge of this tree. The other side of the tree is at 1,500 mil. We're looking at an animal total length, tip to tip, somewhere around the 16 to 18 inch mark.
Yeah.
Give or take a couple of millimetres here and there, but it's quite a small animal.
Well, it's certainly not the colour of a Tasmanian devil.
No, and it's not the shape either.
No.
And the tail's completely different as
Yeah.
well.
It certainly also looks like there's stripes there,
It does.
but it's certainly not a kangaroo shape.
No,
Yeah.
not when it comes to the actual foot itself, especially
No,
because.
but the whole body.
No, that's right. This animal isn't a kangaroo.
No.
That's right. This isn't a macropod. This is either a dog, cat, or unknown, or thylacine. But quite small. And
Pity it hadn't come back the other way.
yeah, a face shot is what we
Yeah,
need. We need
yeah.
it smiling at the camera, I
Yeah.
think. But I believe with the amount of features that we find in this photo, we can rule out dog and we can rule out cat.
Yeah.
We can certainly rule out all of the other.
There's no dog that's going to have a bear pastern like that.
No dog. So if you were going to put your money on that being a thylacine, how much do you reckon you put on it?
Well, I'd like to put $50 on it in the hope it was. But
That's a safe bet.
Yeah.
There's been no photoshopping or anything. We've had a photographer verify that the images haven't been tampered with, so they're totally natural images. There's a variation in the date signature on the card. At first, everything seems fine with the setup with the card, but somewhere in November, it's reset and it's decided that it wants to be on the 1st of the 1st of 2016. Now, trail cameras can be a bit of a pain when it comes to technology. They like to play up and sometimes they reset the factory settings, and that's what this one's done here. Have a lovely day, folks, and enjoy looking at a baby thylacine walking through the bush of northern Tasmania. Brought to you by the Thylacine Awareness Group of Australia.